What's up everyone, it's ENDYMION, and I've been holding off making another Star Wars Disney related video for a little bit now, seeing as how there's been tons of conflicting reports coming out about this dumpster fire of a movie. There was rumors the movie was delayed indefinitely, that it was cancelled, and that its scriptwriter had left the project. It was a lot of nebulous nonsense that clearly didn't have any basis. So I waited, and now there seems to be enough to talk about, and of course, like always, since this is Disney, the leaks keep flowing out of Mickey Mouse's kingdom at staggering paces. So there's quite a bit to go over, from new rumors and things like that woke feminist director might even leave the project if these claims are true. So let's begin. To start, let's look at this article from Bounding Into Comics, which states that a new rumor claims Star Wars director Sharmina Boyd-Chinoy might actually leave the project with the ongoing nonsense behind the scenes, and if that does happen, Deadpool 3's director Shawn Levy could swoop in and take her place. Since this is Disney, of course, creative differences and all sorts of changes keep happening behind the scenes almost constantly. This rumor comes from Jeff Snyder. He's from the Hot Mic podcast. Yeah, the same podcast where his co-host yelled about male Star Wars fans being babies about Chinoy directing a Star Wars film. Snyder's co-host is still an idiot for saying that, but anyway, Snyder had this to say about what he's been hearing from his sources. According to Snyder, apparently Shawn Levy, who is signed to direct a Star Wars movie once he's done Deadpool 3, his untitled movie will allegedly be in the future, as in post-episode 10 right now. According to Snyder, in Shawn Levy's Star Wars flick, it will also feature Rey again to some capacity. What's crazy is Snyder was hearing rumblings from his sources that Levy's film might even feature a much older version of Rey. We're talking like 70 years old at least. And that Lucasfilm wants to accelerate the era surrounding Rey as a character. So instead of every film being like 2 or 3 years between or something, they kinda just wanna establish her in episode 10, make the Jedi Order happen, and then make her old as hell and move on. And what's crazy is Snyder said he's heard Lucasfilm has juggled the idea of a old Rey being played by Helen Mirren of all people. That's right, Lucasfilm is actually contemplating having a grandma version of Rey swinging a lightsaber. Good lord, this series needs a creative reboot yesterday, man. But the part that made me raise an eyebrow was when Snyder said Sharmina Boyd-Chinoy is causing Lucasfilm to panic behind the scenes. Because Disney is learning during this creative process that this diverse woman of color they hired to helm their next project is apparently, according to Snyder, completely out of her depth with this upcoming film. And Disney is kind of freaking out behind closed doors since they're starting to realize, why did we hire a woman who's only done documentaries to make a $200 million Star Wars movie, especially when fan apathy is cratering the franchise from all angles? Well, as they say, you reap what you sow, but according to Snyder, Disney Lucasfilm has their little ace up their sleeve as well, saying that if Chinoy exits the project, which would not only be embarrassing but hilarious, considering how vocal Disney was when they announced her involvement, they have Shawn Levy on standby to swoop in and direct the film. And Levy's film could even merge with episode 10 and become a new version completely. I know what you're thinking, man, this all sounds like a mess, and you're right, it is. How can they not have a simple story to tell, you may be asking? The simple answer is that this is Disney, my friends. And them cooking behind the scenes usually leads to the whole kitchen imploding and there being messes upon messes to clean up once it's all said and done. Snyder finishes his statement on rumors by simply saying, "I'm not saying Shawn Levy's movie is a Rey movie, I'm saying it involves Rey." And honestly, if Star Wars Episode 10 needs anything, it needs a real director who knows how to direct action and story in compelling ways. In case you don't know who Shawn Levy is, he's directed films prior to Deadpool 3 like Free Guy, Real Steel, Night at the Museum, like pretty much all of those films, Cheaper by the Dozen, and Big Fat Liar. And that doesn't include all of his producing efforts, but you get the idea. The guy is known for comedy, story, and action is what I'm saying. At least when compared to Chinoy, Levy actually has a record of making blockbuster films that are profitable, which in Chinoy's case is the exact opposite. But then again, the probability that Levy gets the movie would definitely look bad on Disney's part, because they paraded around this diverse woman of color, and if she leaves and they end up hiring a white guy, all the activists will fold their arms and cry foul and say racist stuff. But I say let it happen, because it's clear the alternative is a woke disaster that'll kill an already dying fan base. Speaking of dying, there's another rumor, this time from Overlord DVD, who claims his sources are saying that Rey will actually die in the upcoming film. Or that one of the 6 scripts that allegedly currently exist for this film, which, man, what a mess, dude. 6 different scripts. What is going on over there? But anyway, this apparent rumor states that in this rendition of episode 10, the twins Rey is training in the Jedi Order are actually her own children. That she, yes, like I reported in my last Star Wars video, she ends up having with Kylo Ren somehow, who I guess claps Rey's cheeks from beyond the grave Jedi ghost style. I don't know, man. Yeah, okay, the Force works in mysterious ways, but I think Ubering booty calls into your glory hole across time and space is kind of where I draw the line here. Honestly, hearing Rey is getting smashed by Kylo from beyond the grave just gives me Scary Movie 2 vibes when that girl sleeps with a ghost. It's ridiculous. Anyway, I'm going on a tangent. Let's circle back to that rumor. So apparently Rey trains her twins who are both a boy and girl, just like Luke and Leia. Wow, how creatively bankrupt of them. Anyway, according to Overlord DVD sources, Rey's daughter will of course be a girl boss and have amazing leadership qualities because she's a woman. And the boy will basically be Kylo Ren 2.0. And her son, who gets swayed to the dark side somehow, probably via Darth Plagueis, who I reported in my last video was who Disney has been considering as the main villain of this new movie, will likely cause Kylo baby boy to shank his mom and kill her. And the story will end with Rey dying and the daughter of Rey and Kylo having to go on a quest to save her brother from the machinations of Darth Plagueis and bring him back to the light. Honestly, out of all the pitches I've seen so far, this one sounds the best. Yeah, okay, we still have a girl boss main character, but moving that aside, this at least has Star Wars returning to some semblance of normality. Rey is dead as hell and can now get clapped by Kylo Ren in the Force or whatever. I don't know how that works. And we have another story where there's 4 sensitive twins and an evil Sith playing with everybody's emotions behind the scenes. It's not perfect, I know, but at least it somewhat works to retcon and slightly reboot the nonsense in some way. The one part I think is stupid is how in all 6 of these scripts that are floating around Lucasfilm, the ultimate goal here is that Rey wants to merge the Jedi and Sith together and eliminate the light and dark sides of the Force. But not only is this stupid, it also makes zero sense. You can't just force 2 things that vehemently oppose each other to suddenly be buddy-buddy. And if they introduce some third faction equivalent, it wouldn't make much sense either. What's worse than the Sith? Another faction that is just pure darkness, or maybe it represents the rejection of both and is an equivalent of the Void? Isn't that just an offshoot of the Sith to begin with? My head hurts, and I'm hungry. The point is that without the Jedi or Sith, it kind of invalidates the whole wars thing in Star Wars, which I don't know about you, but that seems pretty important. It would be like a Marvel movie where Disney goes, we must eliminate the concepts of superhero and villain to face something more, which would be what exactly? An even super duper version of supervillains? You see what I mean? This makes about as much sense as a future Star Wars movie starring Rey making any money. And speaking of money, turns out Disney is also shivering in their Mickey Mouse trousers about that too. Because I don't have to say much when I remind you that the Marvels did horribly and was a girl boss nightmare. And Rise of Sky Snoozer made half of what The Force Unfortunately Awakens did. So naturally Disney, in their infinite woke wisdom, are actually looking at this Rey Episode 10 nightmare and finally realizing, wait, people might not actually want to pay for this movie, so what do we do? Well, according to another rumor, my god how many of these are out there, it states that this Episode 10 might just end up getting dumped onto Disney Plus in the end anyway. This rumor comes from friend of the channel WDW Pro, who more often than not has been right in a lot of his rumors and leaks that he gets from his sources. He claims that Disney has barely any faith in their new Jedi Order film. By the way, apparently that's the current title of Episode 10. Star Wars New Jedi Order. I would have preferred Star Wars Oh God Why or Let Me Die, but I'm probably blacklisted by Disney at this point. Anyway, Pro said, and I quote, "We've been reporting on this channel that we think it is rather likely that Rey could be going to Disney Plus because he can't make it at the box office. They cannot open it up to that level of scrutiny because we don't see any path forward for them to manage to make money off of this thing. And that would be incredibly embarrassing to them. We've also been reporting that Rey cannot carry a movie on her own, and so the only Star Wars character remaining that they could strap to this movie is Baby Grogu, little baby Yoda. The problem with that is that they will have to age him up, and the problem with that is they need to wrap up the Mandalorian story to strap him onto there. It looks like, according to the source, that Sharmina Boyd-Chinoy is being very public and positioning this as she is a woman of color, it's time for her to be in charge, that she's being so forthright in this kind of DEI language in order to protect the film from being cut even more drastically. And what is being alleged is that the Walt Disney Company, although I cannot prove this independently, that the Disney Company, many of their higher-ups are extremely squeamish, and squeamish is the word that was sent my way in regards to the viability of this film. They're quite nervous. Now, where this becomes problematic is that apparently the executives took a look at this script and they felt that this was too Marvel. And that's the quote that I've got here, too Marvel. And the reason was it felt like a side quest adventure. It did not feel like this was a bigger thing than what had happened in the prior 3 movies, and so it came off, without the wind in the sails. The issue there, I'm told, is that there's frustration on the side of Lucasfilm. Usually, I don't defend Lucasfilm. In this case, I will. They can't figure out a way to make a story bigger than what happened at the end of Rise of Palpatine with, all that happened on that planet with the ships rising out. They don't know how to make something bigger than that. Frankly, I hope they don't. But that's where the Disney executives came in. They looked at the script, I'm told they were not pleased. They did not like whatever this was, and I don't know any further granularity to what was in the script, end quote. So as you can see, as Pro puts it, this film is, as they say in the biz, my friends, absolutely cooked and likely dead on arrival. And for good reason, because nobody wants to see a Rey-led movie these days. And really the only way this film even remotely becomes some sort of success that Disney can spin into positive buzz would honestly be to release it on Disney Plus day one. Because while the movie would likely bomb if it were in theaters, the reality is that the morbid curiosity of fans and the added benefit of the film being available via Plus would absolutely lead to many people at least checking the film out since they don't have to leave their house, so the entry to watch would be low. And I'm sure if they did release episode 10 like that, it would easily, regardless of quality, become the most watched day one premiere thing whatever in Plus history, which would of course create major buzz. Disney could spin the story as a massive win, and it could be a huge boon to their streaming service. But beyond that, really, this film would be dead on arrival, and it's not like making this film, which currently has the alleged budget between $150 to $200 million, could exist on Disney+. Remember that She-Hulk Season 1 cost around $225 million somehow, and that came to Disney Plus as well. And you just have to look at other platforms who've done similar big budget releases on their streaming services like Netflix. Zack Snyder's Rebel Moon, which was absolute butt cheeks of the highest caliber, costed around $166 million for both parts. And sure, the film wasn't good, at least in my opinion, but I can't deny the film was a big hit on Netflix. And it likely drove subscriber growth and watch times when it released. Plus, Netflix has also spent upwards of $200 million on other films like The Gray Man, and that was a big hit for them too. So the possibility of episode 10 releasing on Plus would honestly be the smartest move for Disney, in my opinion anyway. I guess they could do a dual release where it's in theaters, as well as I'm sure there will be those who obviously would want to see the next Star Wars film on the big screen. And I mean, look at Five Nights at Freddy's. It came out on streaming and theater simultaneously day one. And even though you could watch that film on Peacock day one with your subscription, the film still made over $300 million at the box office. And it's currently, as of the making of this video, Blumhouse's most profitable and biggest release of all time. So clearly the dual release didn't hamper its box office numbers at all. So if Disney were smart, which let's be real isn't common these days, their best bet would be a dual release for episode 10. And that way they can still spin their articles saying, oh, look how well it did on Disney Plus. And it'll likely make some decent money in theaters as well too. I mean, it is Star Wars after all. Sure, it might not make $1 billion, but still. And who knows, maybe people do end up going to the theaters instead and the film is a blockbuster smash hit. And if that happens, which is unlikely, but let's just say for the sake of argument, then Disney has both won the box office and their streaming service implodes with viewership numbers. I honestly think that's the best course of action here, but I mean, then again, Disney are the kings of making slop for modern audiences. And whenever someone uses that term modern audiences unironically when pushing a product, I cringe a little and die inside. Take, for example, Disney Lucasfilm's upcoming Indiana Jones game for Xbox, where one of their developers said this.
Now we have the opportunity to tell a new Indiana Jones story for a modern gaming audience.
Yeah, that doesn't bode well for anybody. Star Wars these days, like this new indie game, all their products are being made for the modern audience. Which I always say, no matter what, how many times I have to repeat it, that modern audience doesn't exist. There is only the audience that was always there. You and me is what I mean. They need to stop catering to this massive group of people that don't exist and keep making things for the actual paying customers in the here and now. And the longer Disney and other companies pander to these modern audiences that never show up to support anything, the more they'll lose money. She-Hulk is a prime example of this, and apparently that show bombed so hard a second season is never gonna happen, which I mean, thank God for that at least. But I just want to quickly circle back to that Indiana Jones game, since it is after all being made under the watchful eye of woke Disney. And when that one employee who of course has that haircut wearing a shirt with those colors talking about modern audiences, it got me worried. Cause you're telling me that Disney is making a game based on a franchise they ruined already by destroying the Indiana Jones character and his legacy. And not only that, but this game clearly takes place during or after World War II like the movies did. And really, if they do go ahead and inject any modern sensibility nonsense into it, not only will it suck, it'll make zero sense as well. Cause Indy, whether Disney wants to admit it or not, is clearly a product of his time. And there would be nobody during that time period, especially who would want to be worried about nonsense like using the right pronouns or something. The era of the world surrounding that period of World War II or around it, it was brutal, dude. Nobody cared about even the slightest bits of human decency, and it was a time of war and strife. But just looking at the trailer, they managed to sneak in a strong female character who also happens to sport the mental illness SJW haircut in a game set decades before that kind of haircut was even considered. I can already see the DEI nonsense forming around this indie game. Honestly, I think it looks good. I mean, it's Machine Games, they're great at first-person shooters. They did do the Wolfenstein reboots, but you gotta be kidding me if this game won't have some level of nonsensical pandering or wokeness in it. I truly hope not. I hope it's a traditional old-school Indiana Jones adventure without the stink of modern sensibilities. But come on, dude, this is licensed by modern Disney under the watchful eye of Bethesda, who put pronouns in Starfield. And the first developer they show you working on this game has literally ticked every single box you could think of when it comes to pandering. So if you want my opinion on whether this game will be good, I would say refrain from getting too hyped. This is not the Bethesda before, this is the new, much more pander-heavy Bethesda, and since it's Disney, we already know they likely will put it in the contract that the game needs diversity and all that too. I hate that I have to look at things like this, but it's just how things are. I could probably guess at some point in the game someone will make a joke about Indy being a straight white male stealing artifacts, just watch it happen. Because we all know Disney won't make anything unless they can check some boxes and increase ESG these days. It sucks, but it is how it is right now. Look, I don't have much faith in Disney's Star Wars. I mean, they've been limping for years at this point, but hopefully these rumors do come to some form of fruition. Because if Sharmina Boy Chinoy ends up leaving the project due to internal problems, that would honestly be amazing for everyone involved with this. The last thing Disney needs is another woke feminist disaster infused with identity politics pushing messaging down viewers' throats. And if they want the apathy to stop, they need to course correct and do it sooner than later. Never pander to the modern audience, because those people will never support your products anyways. But as always, thank you for watching, like, subscribe, and share the video if you enjoyed it, and thanks to my patrons for supporting this godforsaken channel on a monthly basis. Have a wonderful day, take care of yourselves, eat your vegetables, and now if you'll excuse me, I'm gonna go yell into the void. I'll see you in the next one.